Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Today we are joined by Melissa Hague, who is an attorney at the Joel Bieber firm. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Can we start off? Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your role at the Bieber firm? I think Melissa's frozen. We were talking about this prior to the show, that she does not have great internet. No, yeah, there you are. Welcome back.
Thanks. Here I am.
Can we start off? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your role at the firm?
Sure, yeah. My name is Melissa Hague. I am an attorney with our firm who manages our Philadelphia office. The firm's based out of Richmond, Virginia, but when I joined several years ago, we opened up an office here in Philly, which is where I'm based, and I have practiced law here for almost 20 years.
Wow. And what is your focus at the firm?
So my main focus is handling sexual assault cases in the civil justice system. So we represent.
Oh, we might have to get Melissa to
Against
repeat
their
that.
perpetrate.
I was going to say, you cut out there again. Can you, I'm sorry to keep making you repeat the same answer. Can you tell us again?
Yeah, no worries. So I handle our sexual assault cases. We represent survivors of sexual assault, and we litigate those cases in civil court against both their perpetrators and institutions that may have been involved with facilitating the assault and protecting the perpetrators.
Wow. And I mean, that's pretty heavy work, right? And I mean, I'm wondering, that's got to be something that comes with a lot of emotional, ties to it. How do you nurture your clients through something like that? I mean, that's got to be difficult.
Yeah, no, it is difficult, but I have a phenomenal team of lawyers and paralegal assistants that we're all very, very dedicated to this practice area. We're all trauma informed. So we've all been trained on how to best interact with survivors to minimize triggering them or causing more trauma. And we do, because it is heavy and because it does, it's something that really affects their mental health and well-being. We do require all of our clients to be in some type of trauma therapy before they initiate litigation.
And this sort of trauma-informed approach, I'd like to dive a little deeper there. I mean, what are some of the strategies that are utilized in a trauma-informed approach?
Yeah, it really involves a whole different approach to litigation. And before I started handling these types of cases, I handled medical device litigation. So very, very different. The clients are very different. Not clients that have been through a trauma like these clients. And what I've learned through handling these cases is it really requires much more hand-holding with the clients. It really requires allowing them to kind of be the dictators of which direction their case goes, giving them choices. And by giving them choices and saying, okay, I'd rather do a mediation than file a lawsuit. Or we might give them the option of, do you want to file the lawsuit under your true name or under a pseudonym? And we explain to them what the pros and cons of those different options are, but then don't pressure them to make one specific decision either way, and let them make those decisions. It ends up being something that can be very empowering for these clients. And they're getting a sense of control back that they lost during the trauma. So it's even like small things like how we communicate with them. We'll ask them, do you prefer to talk over the phone or over Zoom? Do you prefer phone calls over emails? Even small things like that gives them a sense of that control back. And it becomes their case, not my case, not the firm's case, their case that they're pursuing and being advocates for themselves.
Well, it sounds like when you are approaching these cases that everything is very custom tailored to the individual and their specific situation. I mean, would that be correct to say?
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. And I say to my clients all the time, what might look like justice for you might not look the same for the next survivor. And, we ask our clients from day one to start thinking about what is justice for you? What does that look like? Because that's our goal. Our goal is to get them justice. And it's going to be different for every different survivor.
And what are the benefits of really custom tailoring that, instead of saying, a one size fits all approach? I mean, does that custom tailored, strategy and approach, how does that pay off in the long run?
So I've had a lot of, unfortunately, clients come to me who a different law firm or lawyer that didn't take the same type of trauma-informed approach that we do. And what I've learned in speaking to them is they get re-traumatized, or they almost feel re-victimized all over again by the process. And if they start to feel re-victimized by the process over again, one or two things happens. Either their mental health will deteriorate in a devastating way such that they can't even pursue litigation, or B, worst case scenario, they turn to avoidance, which is a trauma response, and they say, I can't do this anymore, like withdraw my lawsuit.
Wow. I think, Melissa, that you have frozen again. I don't know if you can hear me, but there we are. Can you repeat that last little bit? You locked up there again. Oh, it's,
I've had people come to me even recently and tell me that they had a lawsuit filed. They asked their attorney to withdraw it. It wasn't the right attorney for them. And they're now trying to find somebody to come back and refile it. But there's a lot of negatives that can affect somebody's case when that happens. So I've discovered that this really is, I believe, the only way to effectively handle these cases. It does take more work, and it does require more custom tailoring to the actual individual plaintiff, but the alternative is not good.
Right. Well, and these people that are victims of sexual assault, what are some of the other challenges that they face when they're pursuing legal recourse? I mean, obviously there's the trauma aspect, but are there any other challenges that they face?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest challenge, I would say, really is the legal process will be triggering. It will cause some re-traumatization.
Right.
So the only way when you're actually litigating one of these cases is the client has to be in some type of trauma therapy, is what I've found and uncovered. And frankly, I learned the hard way. One of my very, very, very first clients that I represented was one of the victims of the Larry Nassar MSU USAG sexual assault cases.
Wow.
And when she came to me, there was a really tight deadline for plaintiffs to file. They had what we call a very small window. I think their window was only like maybe 90 days.
Wow.
She came to me the day that the window was expiring. She had never disclosed to anybody else what had happened to her. We were able to get the necessary records to verify what, she was telling us. And we went ahead and we filed the case immediately, same day. But she was not in therapy and had never even talked to anybody else about what had happened to her. And between the litigation process and because that was a high profile case that was in the news and the media, and because she wasn't in active therapy, it did have a devastating effect. Thank God she's okay now, but in the course of litigation had attempted suicide.
Oh.
Yeah. So, honestly, that is one of the biggest challenges of these cases, is making sure that they are in a safe space with respect to their mental health and far enough along their recovery journey to be able to really handle litigation. And we do other things to minimize that re-traumatization as much as we possibly can, but there's no way to fully eliminate it.
How do you handle these cases in a way where you're nurturing sort of compassion and dignity for these people? They've lost so much already. So, are you kind of starting, building them back up from the ground up? What are some of the mental states that people are in? Obviously, you mentioned that case, but how do you foster that sort of getting them back that confidence?
So I would say it's really the job of the therapist to get them from the ground up. We usually, in the best case scenario, we come in somewhere in the middle of all of that, right? So by the time they've come to us, they've at least had enough strength and courage to pick up the phone and call a law firm. I think the scenario I just kind of told you was a unique scenario because there was such a short time frame for her to file.
Right.
But most of the time we get involved somewhere in the middle of that journey. And it's really what we do is we tell our clients, we understand you're not going to come to us and fully disclose everything the first time you meet us, that we have to build trust. And that's something that we do over time. So part of that nurturing is showing them that they can trust us, that we do understand what they're going through. We understand how trauma affects people, and we understand responses to trauma so that they don't have to feel apologetic if they don't respond to us right away, or if they're in an avoidance.
Right. Melissa, you have locked up again. Can you finish up that last thought just one more time? You've locked up one more time.
I'm sorry.
You're okay.
We tell them that we understand different responses to trauma. And I think that over time makes them feel more comfortable with us and trust us. We understand how the brain and the memory processes in the midst of trauma, such that somebody generally cannot recount the traumatic event in chronological order. We tell people that, I think that then it makes them more comfortable and trusting to know that okay, these people understand, they get it. They know if I have parts of my memory that are blacked out that I can't remember, that there's a reason and an explanation for that that's related to the trauma that they weren't able to control. So all of that, I think, helps build trust between us and them. And over time, that's what really could make it not just a successful client.
Let's see if Melissa comes back.
Oh, sorry.
Can you finish up just the end of that thought? I apologize.
Yeah. I was saying by doing that, it really is what I think forms the trust between the attorney and the client. And it builds that trusting attorney-client relationship. And that is key for these cases to be successful. If you don't have trust between, and it's hard because victims of sexual assault don't trust anybody, rightfully so, right? They've just been violated in the most horrific way, a lot of times by people that they trusted. So it takes time to build that, and we understand it. But it is a challenge, but it's critical in order to be able to represent them and for the case to be successful.
And I mean, you're working in an area obviously where, you're dealing with the heaviest of the heavy subject matter. I mean, emotions are, obviously running extremely high. Do you ever find it difficult to sort of keep those emotions tied to work and make sure they don't follow you home? Does that make sense? Is it
Yeah.
hard for you to separate those two?
I mean, I'm able to do that, which is what allows me to be involved in this space. But when people
Let's see.
oh, I think I lost you.
There you go. Yeah. I'm sorry. Can you re-answer that one for us?
Yeah. I was just saying, I'm actually able to do that. I can leave all of that heaviness for the most
Right.
part at my desk when I walk away and go home to my family. But when people come to work with me, it's one of the first things we discuss. And I tell them, not everybody can work on these cases. And if you find that you're taking it home with you, or you're constantly thinking about it, or replaying something a client told you over and over again, then it's okay to not work on these cases.
Right.
Because it can't affect, if it's affecting somebody's mental health, another attorney or a paralegal or an assistant, then they can't be good advocates for these clients because it becomes too heavy. So we talk about that a lot, and everybody that works with me knows like that it is okay to say, like, you know what, I can't work on this case, or I can't work on these types of cases.
Right.
Because that is a really important factor.
And you mentioned being a good advocate for your clients. And as an attorney, you're someone that has been recognized for fearless advocacy. And I was just wondering, how do you got that reputation for representing your clients with fearless advocacy, and sort of what that notion means?
I mean, for me, my number one concern is always my client's mental health and well-being. So we have done things and asked for certain accommodations in cases that may not have ever been done before, or nobody's ever thought of asking for certain accommodations before. And we've done that and also used those as opportunities to educate the court and the judges about how certain things are going to affect a trauma victim that might not affect the victim of a car accident or something like that. Disclosing all the medical records to somebody that had hip surgery or knee surgery is not anywhere near as traumatizing as disclosing sexual assault survivors' therapy records, right? Just knowing that they have to turn those over to the other side can be a really difficult thing to accept. So we will go into court and ask the court to put certain limits on things like that other people would say, well, that's unheard of. You can't ask the court to do that. The other side has the right to all of those records. And I'm like, this case is different.
Is there a case you could maybe share with us? Was there a particular case that really impacted your approach to representing victims of sexual assault?
I mean, honestly, it was the Larry Nassar MSU litigation. There were they called 2 waves of litigation. I was involved in that second wave when the Michigan State Legislature passed legislation opening a small window of like 90 days for victims to come forward and file lawsuits whose statute limitations may had previously expired. So during that, there was an additional like 180 cases that were filed. And I was involved in that litigation. And that really was, and the experience with that client I talked about earlier, really was what made me realize how important it was to approach these cases differently.
Mm.
and for it to be a trauma-informed approach, because if it's
Oh, I think we lost you again.
that this is part of their healing journey, and that the case and the litigation can be part of their healing journey. And in order for that to happen, it can't cause them more harm. So that's when I really became very passionate about representing these clients and making sure that I built a whole team around me that was trauma-informed and trauma-informed trained, and start teaching other people how to handle these cases from a trauma-informed approach.
I'd like to switch gears and talk maybe a little bit about the cases that you handle, the mass tort cases involving the defective medical equipment. Do you see any similarity or overlap between sort of those two fields that you've worked in, those two, I guess, spaces?
So there's not a ton of overlap or similarity. I would say the first half of my career was solely related to medical device, pharmaceutical drug litigation in the mass tort realm. So we would represent hundreds or thousands of plaintiffs who were all injured and harmed by the same defective medical device, and litigate that in federal court. But it was that experience of handling multi-plaintiff cases, and how to litigate multi-plaintiff cases that gave me the opportunity to take that experience in the Larry Nassar MSU litigation, because that involved so many different plaintiffs, and take that experience and utilize it there to help survivors in a multi-plaintiff case.
What inspired you early on to focus your career on defective medical equipment and pharmaceuticals? Sorry, that word did not come out. Pharmaceuticals.
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. So, the firm that I got hired at right out of law school had just gotten involved, and at the time was kind of a groundbreaking criminal enterprise had just been exposed in the Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey area, involving stolen cadaver body parts.
Whoa.
I know. It sounds a little bit like it actually was, I think, a Law and Order episode or something that they ended up doing, called The Body Snatchers. But they were stealing cadaver body parts from corpses at funeral homes that would then be used in surgeries, like a neck fusion surgery where they would use cadaver bone, or cadaver tissue or skin for burn victims. And the FDA actually had to recall the cadaver parts. So the people who received the cadavers got actual FDA recall letters saying, your bone's being recalled, go get tested for infectious diseases. Yeah, it's crazy.
Craziest story. Wow. That might be the craziest story that's ever been shared on Partnerships for Profit. That is wild. That is insane. And I mean, and so you got involved in that? What was your involvement in that case?
That was the first litigation I ever worked on as a baby lawyer coming out of law school. So I at one point, I think, we litigated it for several years. I realized at year 2 or 3, I was like, oh, it's all going to be pretty boring after this, isn't it?
Right. That is wild.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. It was a fun case to work on, though.
Can you share with us, either through the mass tort case or, the sexual assault victim side of things, can you maybe share with us a story of when you think back of all the people that you've helped, is there a story that you can share with us of someone that you really saw a positive really positive transformation in as a result of your help and guidance? I know it's a bit of a loaded question. I'm sorry.
No,
Oh, you froze out again.
Oh, okay. Am I back?
There you go. You're back. Welcome back.
Okay. Actually, the Larry Nasser MSU client that I told you about, who I was the first person she had ever disclosed to, and she had an attempted suicide in the midst of litigation, quite honestly. And at the time, she had 2 young boys, and I realized, I was like, this is serious. Like if something happened to her, it would have a devastating rippling effect on many people. Long story short, after that happened, we got her into therapy and treatment that she needed. We litigated for a couple more years. We were able to resolve her case for, I would say, life for her, what was life-changing value, that she is now has resources to get therapy for the rest of her life, and was able to also buy a lovely, beautiful home for her 2 young boys, and afterwards also met the love of her life and got married and had another baby, and is doing wonderful now. And a lot of that, I think a lot of it really did, the case and the litigation, and her having the ability to be strong through that, even though she had a scary moment in there, made her realize how strong she is internally. And really was able to stand up for herself and also be an advocate for herself with, the help of me and my team.
Yeah, that's really incredible. We've talked a little bit about some of the people that you've helped. I'd like to talk about you now. You were named one of the top 11 lawyers to watch out for in 2024 by MSN.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just over here doing my job, helping survivors of sexual assault.
How did that all come about, and how does that influence your practice?
Honestly, it's moments like these where, whether it's talking to the general public or the survivor community or the lawyer community about how important it really is to take a trauma-informed approach to these cases. There are
we lost you again. No. I'm sorry.
I was just saying there are survivors out there that don't know that, one, the civil justice system is even an option for justice. So getting the word out there and spreading that out to the community is important, because even if they were told by a prosecutor that they can't prosecute criminally because, that's a really high standard, that's beyond a reasonable doubt. It doesn't mean that they can't get justice in the civil court system. So getting the word out there about that is really important. And also making sure that people know that, you're choosing your lawyer. You should talk. I tell everybody when they come meet with me, talk to not just me. Meet with multiple lawyers and law firms. Find the right one for you. Grill them. Ask them how they approach a trauma-informed litigation. I'll give them a list of questions to ask people if they need to or want to, because I've seen the devastating effects of when they're with a firm that's not taking a trauma-informed approach. So whatever media or news outlet wants to write whatever about me or the firm, my goal is to just use it all as an opportunity to get the word out there and spread it out there, to be for survivors to be their own advocates in that moment. Make sure they find the right lawyer for themselves, and make sure that they're going to take and know how to take a trauma-informed approach, because it's so incredibly important.
And you mentioned the importance of community. you're a pretty active member of your community. Is that correct? And you support and contribute to a lot of initiatives. Can you speak a little bit about that?
So I'm very involved in just talking about like educating the legal community. I'm very involved with our National Trial Lawyers organization. It's called the American Association for Justice, and have been involved for many, many years with them. We started what's called a litigation group, the sexual assault litigation group, and we hold annual CLEs every year. They're full day CLE courses for lawyers about how to handle sexual assault.
Let's see if she returns. There you
I'm
go.
back. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're all right.
But yeah, we hold and host and CLE, which is our continuing legal education programs for lawyers, and we'll go all over the country educating lawyers on how to handle sexual assault cases.
Well, Melissa, this has been a really fascinating, really informative conversation. If anybody out there could use your help, could use the help of the firm, where can the people find you?
Yeah. So I can give you my email address and also our website. Our website is assaultvictimlawyer.com. People can find me and my team there and read about me and my team on that website. And then my email address is mhague, which is MHAGUE at joelbieber.com, which is JOEL.
BIEBR would be.
Of course, I think I glitched right when I was.
Yeah, you glitched again. You want to repeat that information for us?
Yeah. But the email is mhague, MHAGUE at joelbieber, which is JOELBIEBER.com.
Well, Melissa, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was absolutely fantastic.
Yes. No, thank you so much for having me.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Melissa, thank you so much again.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.